Yeah, I can go through everything that I signed off on for you after the meeting. But it, no, he gonna let you in. Let Orlando in too. Let Orlando. Yeah, happy birthday. Yeah, Orlando's birthday today.
Oh.
Are you in? Okay. All right. Okay, bye. Um, we do. Yes, print it. We're gonna need it. Well, that we won't need that till later. Yeah.
That's Brandon, the police secretary, or somebody from this office.
Okay, good morning, all. We're gonna call our meeting to order. It's 9 a.m. And is Dr. Talbot on? Dr. Talbot on? Not on.
He would be late.
He said he would be late?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, then we will ask Board Member Gillum if he would give us a brief invocation. Sorry to put you on the spot, Brother Gillum.
No problem, sir. Good morning to all, and merciful God, we come before you again, thanking you once more and again for the gift of this marvelous day. We thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus, as our Savior. We thank you for the gift of the Holy Spirit as our Comforter. We thank you for the gift of each other, and we pray that you would ordain and bless our proceedings today. Go with us, help us to act in a spirit of cooperation and concern for our students, our faculty, our staff, and this great university that we've been called to serve. We ask this in the holy and untestable name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Board Member Gillum. Dr. Belton, roll call.
Yes, and good morning to everyone.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Attorney Rutledge,
Here.
Mr. Talbot, Attorney Amity,
Mr. Amity is on.
I'm here. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Bartholomew, Dr. Davis,
Present.
Mr. Fondell, I see that Mr. Fondell on the line. Dr. Gaines,
Dylan, I'm on a conference call.
I'm here. Raymond.
okay. Mr. Garvey,
Here.
Mr. Gilliam,
Present.
Mr. Hilliard,
Here.
Attorney McGee,
Here.
Attorney Shorty, Mrs. Smith,
Present.
Dr. Tarver,
Here.
Dr. Whitfield,
Present.
Ms. Williams.
Present.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I adopt the move for the, before we proceed with the adoption of the agenda, please bear with me as I read this required statement. Please be reminded that to mute your phone so that distractions are limited. Also, if you have any public comments that are germane to this agenda, the staff is standing by to receive your comments. So please send us an email at public_comments@sus.edu, or you may call 225-771-4364. You may also log on to our website at www.sus.edu and click on SU Board, then Current Board Packet. And there is a link dedicated to the online submission of public comments there. I will entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda with one caveat, and that is that item T15 under the approval of personnel actions will be an interim appointment. Is there a motion?
Okay, I will make the motion, Leroy Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Is there a
To
second?
approve the agenda with the exception of item T15 and may that we make that and as you said, an interim position rather than permanent.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
And Smith, I'll second.
It's been moved by Dr. Davis, seconded by Mrs. Smith. Is there any objection to the adoption of the agenda as stated? Hearing none, the agenda will stand adopted. Are there any public comments that have been submitted thus far? Any public comments?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We'll move now to action item 5.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Tarver?
in order to facilitate discussion of those items, I'd like to move in global that we approve items 5A through N.
All right.
Second,
Is there-
good morning, Dr. Whitfield.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Tarver and seconded by Dr. Whitfield. Are there any questions, concern, or observations on any item between A through N? Between A through N. Hearing none, are there any objections to the adoption of the motion as stated? Hearing none, items A through N will stand approved. Members, what we would like to do is for Dr. Belton and Mr. McClinton and Mr. Pugh, however Dr. Belton sees fit, to give us an overview of our budget situation from a system standpoint as well as campus standpoint. As all of us know and appreciate, the projected budget is heavily reliant upon enrollment. And there is tremendous anxiety now across the country in terms of individuals returning to school and so forth. And so we want to make certain that we all have a real good understanding of where we are financially. And we've also asked that they touch upon our athletic budget as well, given the realities of our cancellation of fall sports. So Dr. Belton, we will turn it over to you. And if you will address items O and P, if there are no objections, we will ask you to address both of those items while you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as you pointed out, indeed, these are some interesting times, and we are prepared to make a presentation. I'm going to ask if Mr. Flanders McClinton will start us off by just kind of providing us an overview of the budgets as it's applicable to all of the campuses within the Southern University system.
And let me just say also, members, you were sent an email with the budget, a separate email with the budget documents. Also, I believe on the board's homepage, there is a direct link to them as well. If you did not print them and wish to follow them, you can locate them in both of those sections. Thank you.
Mr. McClinton, would you start us off? Is he able to? I see that he's on.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Hello,
there he is.
Okay, we can hear you now.
you can hear me? Thank you. Okay, I would like for, good morning again. I would like for either Marcus or Clerk, he has already. what we have this morning is a presentation on the operating budget and the distribution by campus. And to give you an idea of what the budget looked like this year in comparison to last year, we have included on this document the budget of 12/31/19, which is the same date the state normally used. And we also have the budget for 2021, the executive budget. As you can see, the total budget, if you follow the first section of this report, the total budget was $161,964,791 last year. And it was broken down, this is system-wide, and I won't go out, I'll just say 45.8 million for the general fund, 2,028,000 for the interagency, 104 for self-generated and statutory dead, 4.6, federal funds, 3.6. Then we are looking at the budget for 2021. And as you can see, the total budget for 2021 is 155,459,000. But again, we show the state appropriation of 43.4, interagencies 3,028,000, fees and self-generated 101 million, statutory dedication 4.2, federal funds 3.64, and the total again, like I said, is 155. Now, during the legislative session, we were able to get some CARES funds from the state. This is not the funds that were sent to the university directly, but these are funds that were provided by the state to try and help offset the shortfall that we had for the 2021 fiscal year. And if you look the total amount, and we will be reporting these funds as restricted funds, and in the budget, that's how they are shown. They are not shown as state general funds. The total amount of the CARES funds that the state provided was $3,333,184. In order to give you a realistic picture in terms of how we stand this year compared to last year, the last column on the last section on this report, the one that says change for FY 2020 to 2021. The state general fund, the change is $938,034,000. Now, interesting enough, it's also broken down by campus. And the campus difference, for example, boarding system is $1,094,000 increase, but we'll be submitting a BA7 today for your approval in order to move $1,200,000 of that to the $1 million to the Baton Rouge campus and $200,000 to the Shreveport campus, which would mean that the board still would be cut right at $100,000. I'm sorry. The Baton Rouge campus is $585,000, and once we do the BA7 today, that figure would be offset by the $1 million, which means they will end up positive. The Law Center had a net decrease of $123,000. We're talking state appropriations, and we'll get to the self-generated in a few minutes. And the New Orleans campus, a net decrease of $230,000, and the Shreveport campus, a net decrease of $139,000, but we'll be adding back the $200,000 for the BA7 that we will submit today. And then the Ag Center will have an increase of $922,000. And that's how we got to the $938,000. On the self-generated revenues, and this is your student fees and other self-generated revenues that we have, the Baton Rouge campus is projecting a $3.2 million reduction, but the reduction actually adjusts the budget back to where it was, what it should have been last year. Last year it was overstated. But we made the adjustment during the year to make sure that we would have a balanced budget. This year, all this is doing is bringing the budget in line with what we expect the actual revenues to be. The same thing with the law center. It was overstated last year, but it's bringing it back in line what it should be. So based on that's information from the campuses, the numbers that are reflected here are numbers that they believe that the campuses will be able to generate during this fiscal year. Statutory debt also declined. And as you can see, it declined for each campus. They're expecting a reduction at the state level. And these are funds that we receive from the state as a part of our appropriation. And we're expecting that to decline by $395,000 system-wide. So the total reduction that we are looking is $3,171,590. And but based on all the information and the budgets, the way they were developed, whatever anticipated loss in student revenue from student fees have already been reflected in the budget. In addition to that, you know, as the year progresses, we'll be watching the budget very closely to make certain that if the enrollment does not materialize that's being projected in the budget, that we will ask each one of the campuses to adjust accordingly, adjust the expenditures to make certain that we come up with a balanced budget. We don't know whether there'll be any reduction in terms of at the state level, or whatever reductions that we have to make. Our goal would be to present at the end of this fiscal year a budget that is balanced. And I'm available to answer the questions that you may have.
Members, are there any questions?
Mac, what does all that mean? In a short, concise, non-CPA, dumb lawyer who only understands 33% jargon.
Okay,
please, sir.
What it actually means, Mr. Chair, is that we have developed a realistic budget based on the funding that we anticipate, and any adjustments that need to be made as we progress through the year, we will make adjustments.
And look, I absolutely trust you, and so you're comfortable at this juncture in time with our projections is what I'm understanding. Is that accurate?
That is correct, sir.
May I ask the question?
Absolutely. Did that complete your question?
When I finish.
Hold up, Mr. McGee. Did that complete your question?
Yes, Mr. Rutledge. I was throwing
Thank
a little jab at my good friend, Dr. Davis.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr.
You
McGee.
look good there, brother. You look good. Get rid of that baseball cap.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Dr. Davis.
Look, Mac, just one question, observation. On the CARES fund, are we up and running? Have we used or allocated those funds that we got, I guess, a few months ago?
Okay, yes, campuses are utilizing those funds, but they would have, in terms of the amount that has been spent as of this point, I can get a report from the campus and provide it to you. I don't have that information today, but based on my best information, they are spending the funds, sir.
Yes, so I guess those funds are being used to make sure that our campus is up and running and that we meet all of the requirements of CDC, government, governor's office, as far as getting the campus ready for the semester, the campuses ready for the semester.
Based on my best information, that is correct.
Thank you.
And
Did that complete your questions, Dr. Davis?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Members, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr. Gillum.
back to Mac too. Mac, I heard you say, of course, a lot of our budgets will be driven by, of course, students. It's going to be generated heavily, as I appreciate it. These budgets are going to have to be adjusted, as I appreciate, and as I think I heard you say, by the full-time equivalencies of student enrollment. Now, I'm tracking a couple of the campuses, and I believe our classes, some of them have started as far back as maybe a week ago, with the official census date coming around September 3rd. And the tracking at this point suggests to me that there are some concerns for student enrollment in all of our units. On one of the campuses, it looks like it's only about a third of the students who have, let's say, made an application have actually matriculated by paying funds or having them guaranteed by financial aid. I guess the question where I'm leading to, Mac, and to Mr. Chairman and President, it appears as though it would be diligent of us at this point to maybe have the administration to track. We know we're in a crisis. Well, it's a different situation. It's a challenging situation. This is unplotted ground. Could it be possible we could get a periodic report on what our enrollment trends are looking like at each of our units, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely. Dr. Belton?
Yes, and I think your observations are correct, and on each of the campuses, they are indeed tracking their enrollment. Mr. McClinton did allude to the fact that the campuses have already made some projections about what their student enrollment is, any potential declines, and have taken that into account into the budget. However, it is still early in this process. As you know, we started our classes early, and as opposed to a process in years past where the Board of Regents or we adopted a head count on the 14th day of class or after the 14th day of class. We are now moving toward a common census date that the Board of Regents has established. And so we have much longer, if you will, to be able to facilitate registration such that we could capture as many students as possible, prior to having to report our head count. And so we are probably looking at maybe the second or third week in September as opposed to the first week in September before we are required to publish a head count for the fall semester. I should also say that in keeping with a deliberate strategy of all of the campuses, and in light of the fact that we have received CARES funding, all of the campuses, to my understanding, have all but set aside some revenue to ensure that we can stabilize our budgets in the event of significant declines on the campuses. And so we have purposefully tried to hold some dollars in reserve to offset any unanticipated declines to which we have not accounted for. And so we will accordingly make decisions as our enrollment unfolds throughout the year. But more directly to your question, Mr. Gilliam, we can provide for you periodical updates reflecting on the trends as they unfold, going forth, if that is your desire.
Okay, sir. And to Dr. Belton, I understand you to say it is conceivable that the Board of Regents is going to let us extend this now established September 3rd official census count.
Yes, sir. So now it's no longer a reporting of the, normally we would have to report our enrollment after the 14th day of class. And so now actually our system identifies a census date to which all of our campus will report And usually it is 2 days prior to the Board of Regents requirement for us to report. And so over the last year and a half, we have established a census date, and it runs right up to when we report those numbers to the Board of Regents. And for the purposes of this board, then while our campus historically have opened at different times, it provides for us an opportunity to provide for you comparative data based on the consensus date from one year to another.
One last one, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to hush. As a follow-up to Dr. Davis's concern for the care funding, Mr. President and Mac, are we being diligent in making sure that we follow the mandate that 50% of those funds, those care funds, are to be dedicated directly to students? Are we monitoring that?
Yeah. So, we are required we are literally required to provide for students emergency grants up to 50%, no less than 50% of the dollars that we receive in one part of that funding. Now, our campuses have elected different ways of doing that. So on the Baton Rouge campus, for example, we have we made that disbursement in the spring. And I think on the Shreveport campus, they have decided to offer a disbursement at the end of the spring, summer, and again this fall. And so the Department of Education provides campuses the discretion of establishing how they want to disperse those dollars and when, but they must, but of that amount dedicated for that purpose, 50% has to be given to the students. I would add that, in some cases, certainly that would be the case on the Baton Rouge campus, we are providing above and beyond that to students who have given indication that their financial position has changed. And so even now, we are trying to offset or trying to bring some relief to students who have outstanding balances even now, who are having some difficulty returning to the campus by way of those emergency grants, as we call it. And so the 50% is a minimum, but campuses obviously have the discretion of providing more relief where necessary. Did I answer your question, Mr. Gilliam?
You did indeed, Mr. President.
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging. So,
No problem. Any other questions or observations from board members?
And I just want to point one other thing out, Mr. Chair, if I may, in light of Mr. McClinton's presentation. I'm not sure if there was a realization that higher education was cut this year. We were cut by 2%. And so when you see the reduction in state appropriations, that's where that reduction is coming from.
Okay. Dr. Belton, I also requested that, I don't know who you want to do this, but we have two athletic budgets that are on here, SUSLA and SUBR. Was Mr. McClinton going to speak to those budgets? Who's going to speak to that?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Matt.
Okay, good. I have the athletic budget for the Baton Rouge campus on the screen, and I have a comparison of the budget for last year to the budget this year. And what has happened is that if you notice overall, budget last year was $9,795,000 basically, and the budget this year is $8.8 million. And the difference is $954,000. That's the budget actually has been reduced by $954,000. Also, there's a breakdown to show where the reductions and the increases that are included in this budget. As you can see, in the revenue section on the ticket sales, the revenue is actually dropped by $830,000 because of the fact that, and I'm certain that if Mr. Pugh, Coach Banks, if you wanted some elaboration on that, we'll have it in a few minutes. But you know, we're not having any fall football. So what they have done is gone in and adjusted the budget based on their best estimate as we go through this pandemic. The same thing with guarantees. If you notice that the guarantees are down by $500,000 for football. For men basketball, it's $105,000. Parking, $255,000. I won't go through it. You see the drops, and I'll just explain a couple of them that's large. For example, we are projecting a student athletic fee increase of $380,000. We are also looking at a decrease from the NCAA for $290,000. That's from $380,000 going down to $90,000. And they are using some additional non-mandatory funds, which last year was $1.5 million. They're increasing it by $900,000. So they're adding that to the budget in order to try to come up with a balanced budget the best they can. And the corporate sponsorships, the athletic department has decided that they'll be able to contribute an additional $200,000 for this fiscal year. Can you roll down, Marcus? Can you move the worksheet down? Okay, and then just a few categories. You notice that apparently there's no anticipated layoffs, so salaries remain basically the same. They are reducing the amount they have for wages, and that is because of the fact that we don't have especially the football games. And I'll just highlight a couple others and I'll leave it. Travel is down $782,000. Operating services $300,000, and insurance is up $284,000. And it's my understanding that scholarships also they've increased that to $638,000 based on what the NCAA guidelines require them to do. That is a comparison of the budget, and I'll be happy to address any questions. Mr. Pugh and Coach Banks are on the phone, and if you need any additional answers, I'm certain they are there to provide those explanations.
Just one question, if I may.
Yes.
Yes. What is the situation? What's the NCAA increasing the scholarship? What can you give us a brief explanation on that?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes,
Coach Banks. Coach Banks here. So take the opportunity, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity, and the members of the Board of Supervisors. As it relates to scholarships, by being a member of the NCAA membership, Division I, we are required by the regulations of NCAA to deliver scholarships pertaining to our student athletes. So, for example, certain sports, men's basketball have 13 full scholarships, women's basketball 15, and I can go on down the list. And so we are still mandated to provide scholarships to our students, roughly some semesters between 350 and 400 student athletes. And so that is a line that we could not adjust. That line went up, and you will see that line throughout the years fluctuate. We always believe that it's around 3.3 to 3.5. Also, as you know, that last year softball and baseball did not play, and the recruiting class, we still had to serve them as for scholarships, and the kids that did not get a chance for their eligibility, we had to also hold ourselves accountable for their scholarships as well. And so that is a line that's controlled exactly by the NCAA, that when they come in and audit us, that's a direct line of what they look for as it relates to our budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. This is Jody.
Yes, sir.
Why did the insurance go up so much in 1 year? Just curious.
I can speak to that. I can speak to that as well. So, we know that we have always, in low resource institutions, have struggled with the cost of insurance, and so we have somewhat with our athletic insurance and injury. We have a kind of like a policy that fit us best, where it's a adjusting policy. And so there have been for several years some back pay that we owe in there, and it depends on the amount of surgeries each year that our insurance fluctuate. And to try to balance our insurance out, this is why that's an increase.
So thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Look forward to meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions on this budget by board members?
Will
Okay,
there be a
Coach
discussion?
Banks, I'm sorry, Mr. Dillon, go ahead.
Will there be a discussion of, you have item 12 here, will there be a discussion of the social athletic budget?
Oh, yes, sir. We're going to do that next.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Coach Banks, on the scholarship piece, am I correct that the NC2A does, in its distribution to member institutions, underwrite a portion of the scholarship costs that we incur?
Yeah. So how that works is that in return, the more Division I sports you participate in, which means you have more scholarships, their disbursements increase because they encourage you to have as many sports and opportunities for your students on your campus as possible. And so as we engage, we anticipated in November of 21 bringing for Title IX purpose, starting off with women's golf and then adding men's golf. Our distributions from the NCAA will in return increase, but as we know to be because of the pandemic, we did not get our full allotment and anticipate not getting our full allotment again from the NCAA nor the SWAC office.
Okay. My next question is, and I've gotten some calls about the spring schedule, and of course I think we only have 2 home games and that kind of thing. Do you have some projections, Coach Banks, on how much you think you're going to generate by way of your spring football schedule that will offset these numbers that Mr. McClinton just showed us?
Well, I think and Mr. McClinton and with Mr. Pugh, we've been working on this very hard not to over ostracize our numbers. And it'd be better for us to come in on the low end. So we have kind of penciled in our numbers of what we think would take place. For instance, we're looking at our season book sales, and obviously because of this pandemic and during this time is really at an all-time low as relates to early visits to buying tickets. And so perhaps for me, you stated earlier that we have 2 home games. Well, we have 3 home games. Grambling is our home game this year, but obviously that'll be on a neutral site. So we'll only play 2 games on our campus. To soften up that blow is possibly to make sure that we can be budget friendly and we're doing our part. We possibly can engage into a 3rd game and bring in revenue on a tough year. We probably can bring in some type of guaranteed revenue to soften that line up. And so we are looking at our 3rd game, our 1 game that we can play a non-conference game. to try to find a revenue gain that will make sense, that we can make money without spending that much money. And so we are hoping that also that we can create a couple of assignments around our 2 home games, where in return, since there are no tailgating, we're gonna talk about a satellite location that we can create some revenue to soften those numbers up.
Gotcha. And as I appreciated the conference games that we are playing, that was largely driven by the conference officials in terms of dictating to us what conference games we had to play, or was that a decision that we made on our own?
No, sir. All our schedules are determined, and especially this schedule, because it's all conference. The format was given to play everyone on your side, and then to play 2 games in the other division, 1 at home and 1 away. And so the conference used what we call gridiron to create our schedules, and that's the schedule that they put forth. So basically, it does have to be, the conference often recommended it did have to be voted upon, and that's usually just a process. And so we had no influence over the schedule. This is what the gridiron schedule spit out for fairness.
I understand. Final question from me. I heard you reference, and I think I read somewhere in the release that tailgating would not be permitted. What about the social distancing guidelines for in-stadium seating? Are we gonna be guided by that based on where we are in February, or?
Yeah, yes, sir. That's the most and one of the things that we have to talk about, and I think that Mr. McClendon brought it out, is that all our budget is based on what we could physically see, and at this point now, and we know we have some unseen challenges. So I would suggest that there will be some challenges as it relates to this budget that possibly that's going to cause us to, as you all talked about earlier, make adjustments, such as men's basketball guarantees. If basketball don't start on time and it start in January, which you have seen some conferences say that they're out of business for this calendar year, then that line that you see as a guarantee would definitely change for us, and that's a huge concern. And so, and I say that to say about football, we will be guided by the state guidelines and CDC as it relates to what we can do, how many people that can come in our stadium, and we know it will be social distancing. We know that it has suggested that masks will be required. And another thing is that we haven't spoke about, but is getting very costly, that the NCAA just put out their recommendation as it relates to, once we start, our facilities are not open yet, and I don't anticipate opening them until after we come back from Labor Day to see how we stand in this state. But once we start an organized practice, we have to get on a weekly testing system for roughly about 350 student athletes. And so with a return rate as such where we can turn in our data in. And so that's something as it relates to a cost mechanism as well that concerns us.
Yeah, I feel like Columbo here. This is really my last question. I know the Bayou Classic is a serious revenue generator for you guys, and it's my understanding that the date that we have to play Grambling, the Superdome is not available on that date. Is that your understanding, Coach Banks?
Well, I know that I'll have a conversation with Mr. Alfred Harrell, who's the chair of our Bayou Classic committee. And that date was given to them from the SWAC office, and they had a call on yesterday. So we have a meeting today, and I had anticipated that he was going to say that. In regard to that, I do think is incumbent upon me. We know this is not a traditional Bayou Classic. The Bayou Classic is New Orleans is the home of the Bayou Classic, and so I think that from my lens is that I have to look at this game as to try to meet a budget standpoint and maybe create location that would give us revenue that will host this if New Orleans cannot host it for just this one season, to try to keep us physical responsible, as well as a nice place for our fans and our student athletes.
Well, we understand that there is no script in the manual for this, so I know you guys are doing the best you can under the circumstances. Any other questions from board members? Any questions? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Smith?
I had several season ticket holders who said that they were willing and wanted to buy their season tickets, but because of the COVID-19 schedules that we are on now, they were unable to get their athletic tickets. So what suggestions or what structure do you have to accommodate those alums?
Yes, ma'am. So we know that season tickets has changed a couple of times because we had a printed schedule and we started taking payments. And so once we found out that we was moving to the spring, we had to bring that to a halt. And now that we have gotten our schedule and compared to 5 home games to 2 home games, we have to make the adjustment of the ticket cost. And we also have a line item in there where we can make the adjustment. You can donate if you have paid to the athletic scholarship fund. And so we have some options. And so on our website, gojazzsports.com, we will start in the next couple of weeks, put out our process of what the tickets will cost. We know that our ticket, the setting will be social distancing. We don't know that number. So we would deal with the season ticket holders first to give them the opportunity, those 5,000 patrons, the opportunity first. And then we would go with season ticket renewals. There could possibly be a chance where we don't have enough space. It depends on the state requirement of the social distancing number that we could sell game day tickets. Because also remember that our students pay this in a fee, and we treat them like season ticket holders. So we have to give them an opportunity to provide space for them as well. And so we will be coming out with our ticket pricing as it relates to for the year and other options of giving in the next couple of weeks here. And it'll be on gojazzsports.com. And we always can call the ticket office. We have someone there every day from 8 to 5 to answer all questions. And we have a link on our website where you can email any questions that you have. And my staff and I will respond to those questions that's probably personal that you need to address on isolated situations.
I heard somebody else had a question.
Yeah, this is Raymond Fondell.
Okay.
My question, Coach, is I know you mentioned testing earlier. With regards to the testing, is there going to be a turnaround on it? Do we have the capabilities to have a test within 15 minutes? I know there's some places. And I'll make another statement too to the whole system, to everyone that's listening. At the University of Illinois, in their system, they've been testing their students on campus. I think they've done close to 100,000 tests. And it's been a saliva test that they developed on their campus. That's just something to look into moving forward as, you know, different tests are coming out. But my question was about the turnaround on the test. I know you're going to have 300 students to test. Are we going to be able to have an instant turnaround? It's going to take a few days.
Yeah, so I'm very aware of the saliva test, and we have 2 things going. Our partnership with CARES South right now, they're actually testing our student athletes and our staff for us. And should I go a little further, since they are on campus now, our whole faculty and staff for free. And so we have had a partnership for them for the last 3 years. Dr. Whitfield developed that relationship with myself and Matt Belair several years ago. And so Care South is providing our testing. Now, we know one thing about Care South, and we're trying to work out the wrinkles, is that sometimes it depends on their numbers that you can't get the testing back from 3 to possibly 10 days. And so the NCAA is requiring us to get the testing back in 72 hours. And so hopefully they can facilitate that. But if not, I have already met with an outside group that's a part of a group that actually do LSU testing, and I think McNeese as well. And so we are meeting with that group to make sure that we can meet the definition of the turnaround time required by the NCAA. And so we hopefully Care South, because they've really been a good partner for us, and we would continue to use them. I don't know if they could turn it around in that 72 hours standpoint, but we're working with another group to try to make that investment. And that would be a cost. Care South is not actually a cost for us, but if we go outside and Care South cannot meet that standard, then that'll be another unforeseen cost that we have to deal with.
All right, Coach, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Now we'll go to the Sussler athletic budget.
I can just make one comment before we go to the next item.
Yes, sir. Certainly.
Yeah, I just want to just take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Pugh and Coach Banks for working through this budget. And I know that Mr. McClinton as well was engaged in those discussions. But I have said on many occasions over the last few months that our greatest challenge has been one of uncertainty. And certainly this is applicable here as we look at our athletic budget. I wanted to be clear that, you know, this budget reflects considerable a position of conservatism. They have been very conservative in terms of what they are projecting as revenue or the lack thereof going forth. But I think it is appropriate that I share with this board that even now, much of our revenue is contingent upon spring sports, and particularly in football. And while we are optimistic, we are not certain how that is going to unfold. And so if those dollars, if we're not playing spring sports, or if we're not able to play spring football, then we're talking about a major shortfall of revenue. And of course, Coach Banks, Mr. Pugh, Mac, and I are trying to develop some contingencies even as we go forth to react to that. So I just want to make it clear to the board that notwithstanding what was presented today, again, much of it is contingent upon whether or not we could have spring football, the onset of basketball, and therein, you should anticipate as a board the university coming back to you, give an indication of how we're making adjustments as things unfold. So I just want to offer that a point of clarification, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Belton. We'll proceed now with the Sussler athletic budget, please.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have the, if you look at the bottom portion of this slide, you will see the athletic budget for Sussler, and the total budget is $331,000. And this is based, this budget was developed based on being more or less a standstill budget. When I talked to the chief financial officer for the Shreveport campus, their revenue, their funds really comes from the tuition and fees, and also interagency transfers that they're bringing in. So the key to it is that I would suggest that the only thing we can do on this one is that they're watching their enrollment. And if the enrollment, if it materializes, this budget will be fine. But if it doesn't, then they will have to come in and make some adjustments. So we'll have to, keep a close eye on it and continue to monitor monitor the budget.
Okay, any questions? Any questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Gillum.
Want to direct again to Matt. Matt, first of all, I looked through the budget packet, and of the 390 pages of attachments that we've got, my old eyes don't pick up stuff like they used to. So I see that budget for Susla has been wrapped into something here that you're calling the auxiliary budget. But the question I have is probably may have to defer it to somebody on the Shreveport campus. My concern is this: as I appreciate it, the Shreveport campus is adding a football program that I really was not aware of until actually a few days ago. My concern and my question is not so much to you, I guess, as to them. What's the funding source for it? Has there been a student referendum regarding it? How much? What kind of, I understand there are already football players on the campus and in the student housing. What provisions have been made for the welfare of our student athletes? And I stress student athletes. Is there anybody from that campus can answer that for me?
Mr. Gillum, can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. The thing about the football program that we're bringing on board is technically it's not our program. It's actually a partnership with a nonprofit entity that provides services to former high school athletes who did not make it to D1, either because of athletic challenges, academic challenges, or other issues. And so we're partnering really to provide housing, student support, and the academic portion. The actual football program will be run by this nonprofit entity. So for the most part, there are no cost to the university at all. However, we are doing, in support of the organization, trying to help them find other revenue to support the program. But there's no obligation to the university other than providing housing, student support, and the academic programs for the young men who participate in the program.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Well, my concern is, and I appreciate that, and as you know, I am probably the biggest football fan in the world. I'm sitting in somebody's high school stadium every Friday night trying to watch some football. The issue is, of course, our name is on it. And I'm concerned what kind of liability exposure do we have if something happens to these young people?
Well, regarding that, and it is a play on names. They're not the Southern University Shreveport Jaguars. The nonprofit chose to change their name to the Shreveport Jags. And so while it's closely, very similar to our name, it's not the same. And so I believe back in the spring when we provided the legal signing, we took all of that into consideration with the agreement that we signed with the organization. And that was one of the major considerations to make sure that we tried to mitigate. I don't think it can ever completely eradicate, but we tried to mitigate any potential liability through that agreement. And so, yes, the name is closely related, but it's not Southern University Shreveport Jaguars.
Okay, Mr. Chancellor, I will stand down because I'll have to have faith that you have run this by the president and all of you all are comfortable with it.
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
other? Yes, sir.
Leon Tarver. Has any of this been cleared through our legal counsel? I don't recall any such issue coming before the board on this matter. And I'm concerned about the legal implications of the partnerships, as well as meeting any state rules and regulations which governs the establishment of programs within the campus under the auspices of the Board of Supervisors.
If I may address that, actually in February, the board approved an agreement between Southern University at Shreveport and the Shreveport Jags as outside entity. We did, yes, and we did have extensive meetings with the system and the attorneys to ensure that the agreement was reflective of the concerns that Mr. Gillum brought up and you've brought up to Dr. Tarver.
Yes, because I recall that there's a requirement when we deal with nonprofit organizations that they provide some financial information to be audited, subject to auditing. And I didn't know whether or not anything like that had been agreed to and where that stands.
Now, the information was requested and the entity provided it to us. It may be in the board packet. I'm not sure that the auditors have actually requested it at this point, since it was just in February.
Yeah.
But I know the entity.
Dr. Ellis is correct. It was on the agenda in February. It was board approved. And not only did our internal counsel, who had to review this, but also our external counsel at the Queer Clark and Adams reviewed it and made specific edits to the document to ensure that the university was insulated. There were a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions. And we asked Roman Banks also to work with Dr. Ellis on this piece as well. So it was vetted.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Any other questions about the Sussler budget? Did that complete your question, Mr. Gillum?
Yes, sir. I'm comfortable.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, members? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, that will conclude our budget presentations for items O and P. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Who's talking?
Pat McGee.
Okay, Mr. McGee.
Request favorable passage for us to have open discussion on all of the action items O through U.
All right. It's been moved by Mr. McGee that we approve items O through U. Is there a second?
Dr. Whitfield seconded.
There is a second. Are there any questions or concerns about any item O through U before we formally adopt?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Dr. Davis.
Yes, to Dr. McMeans. Dr. McMeans, I see that you have two new individuals on the agenda to be approved.
Yes.
A couple of questions. One, does this complete your executive team?
Well,
are you completed? Is this completed?
Well, all the positions in the executive cabinet are either interim or completed, but I would be remiss to say that I gave myself to September 17th, which is will be 1 year to do and make some changes. But I think that wraps it up. But a couple of those positions are new. We've never had a development officer in the history of the Ag Center, and so that person will be working, of course, with the foundation and Mr. Harrell. And then the other one is a vacant position we had in animal science. But the director, the vice chancellor for finance has been vacant for over a year. And so that's probably the most critical position. Dr. Belton and I worked hard to try to make that happen. So, but I'm excited, but we're moving closer to that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I understood about it, the finance officer. But on the development officer was my second question. Do you anticipate there would be revenue generated now that you have a development officer, or what? Just briefly, what do you anticipate now that we never had a development officer over there, to my knowledge? So what do you anticipate that we'll gain by hiring this person?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities, low-hanging fruit as it relates to agricultural entities that are interested in what we're doing. And also I noticed with my first homecoming last year, we had about almost 200 ag alumni at the game. And some of them are not involved or engaged, but they are ready to be engaged. And they are excited about the opportunity to even look at an alumni association. But the main thing is to do it in a coordinated fashion in which we're not duplicating any of the system efforts. And so we already have a template laid out, and Mr. Harrell and I are ready to go. And I think the person that's being approved, being an alum and being familiar with the institution and being an ag alum, know our needs, and we'll make every effort to build those partnerships strategically. So we're really excited about it.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. I hope that works out. That's been something that I know we had at one time to an extent, but glad to see that ag alumni organization. There are a lot of outstanding people, young and been around a while, that would like to be involved with the university and the ag center in particular.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there any objection to the approval of adoption, approval of items O through U? Any objection? Hearing none, those items stand approved. We go now to our resolutions. Dr. Williams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. Following are our June through August 2020 resolutions. Our condolences to Judge Charles L. Eloy family. Judge Charles Eloy was a 1979 graduate of Southern University Law Center. He was a community organizer and attorney, a retired Orleans Parish Criminal District Court judge, and he passed away on Sunday, May 31st, 2020. Condolences to the Donald Harold Belair Sr. family. Mr. Donald Harold Belair Sr. was affectionately known as Preacher. He was loved by many and never met a stranger. He was the father of Mr. Matthew Belair, who's the CEO of CARES South, and he passed away on Sunday, June 14th, 2020. Our condolences to the Lillian Raines Richardson family. Mrs. Lillian Rain Richardson was employed in the Southern University Registrar's Office for several years. She was the wife of Coach Pete Richardson. She passed away on June 19th, 2020. Condolences to the Lucius J. Barker family. Professor Lucius J. Barker was known as a giant in the field of political science. He was a graduate from Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, where he received his bachelor's degree in political science in 1949. He was the brother of Twiley Parker and passed away on June 21st, 2020. Condolences also to the Danisha Hardley Fulmar family. Mrs. Danisha Hardley Fulmar was a graduate of Southern University Law Center. She was known for her boundless generosity, humility, and was a blessing to everyone who knew her. She passed away on June 22nd, 2020. Condolences also to Noella Natalie Enclave Bartholomew family. Miss Noella Natalie Enclave Bartholomew was 90 years old and a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish. She was loved by everyone who came in contact with her. She was the loving mother of one of our Southern University Board of Supervisors members, Mr. John Bartholomew. She passed away on August 6, 2020, and our sincere condolences to the Bartholomew family. Condolences are also extended to the Belton family. Mr. Travion Jamal Belton was the grandson of our president, Dr. Ray Belton. He passed away on August 15th, 2020, and will be memorialized this weekend in Houston, Texas. We are keeping our president and his family in our thoughts and our prayers. Condolences also to the Rose Audrey Matwire Greggs family. Mrs. Rose Audrey Matwire Greggs was the wife of the late Dr. Isaac Greggs, of course, the former director of the Southern University Marching Band. Mrs. Greggs worked on the Southern University campus as a registered nurse for several years. She remained part of the university family, also known as Mommy to students who participated in the band and other athletic programs. She passed away on August 18th, 2020. This concludes our condolences. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Is there a motion?
I'd like to add a name to the resolution list. If we could, make sure we add the name of Congressman John Lewis. I know we had a meeting on last month. We didn't have any resolution, so we want to make sure that we recognize him. I think he last visited our campus either 2013 or 2014, and spoke to the law school and to quite a few students, and also rode the bus when we were assisting in our voting efforts back in that time also. So we definitely want to make sure that we recognize him. Thank you.
Any other additions? Any other additions? Mr. Fondell, do you move adoption of the resolutions with that addition?
Yes, we can move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Fondell and I believe seconded by Dr. Davis. Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolutions? Hearing none, the resolutions stand adopted, and I know I speak for our entire board when I convey again to Dr. Belton and his family our sincere condolences and want you to know that you remain in our thoughts and prayers. It's also my understanding that at least one of our members is a year younger today, Miss Orlando Williams. So we wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And
I'm enjoying my 25th.
Yes, 25 and holy.
My little godchild said, Nanny, I thought you were 25 last year. I said, boy, do you want to get written out of the will? You better accept that I'm 25 every year.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have a great day today. Okay, we go now to our informational items, facilities and property update. Is Mr. Guillory on the phone? Dr. Whitfield?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
All right. Good morning to distinguished board members and Mr. Chairman. In your facilities report, you will find a list of projects compared to from the 2 months ago, the previous list of projects. And at this particular time, we are making tremendous amount of progress. Each campus is making tremendous amount of progress. We have received funding. Funding is in place. FPNC is organizing to put the projects in the planning phase and coordinating with each campus through their project managers. It's a tedious and slow process, but progress is being made from the campuses through the Southern University System office, as well, and working closely with the Board of Regents. But overall, the list of projects that we have in the comment columns are displays detailed information. And if there are any questions about any of the projects, I will answer any questions.
What's the timeline on getting the bridge completed that leads into our residential housing area on the back of the campus? It's my understanding that there is that you're going to be able to exit through. Is that Mills Avenue? What's the timeline?
Yes, sir. Right. Well, because of the river stage that has, we had issues with the Mississippi River, and it affected the project and delayed the project approximately 4 months. But we do have access from Mills Avenue to gain access to the housing and the recreational center and the infirmary area through Mills Avenue. I mean, through Mills Avenue area at the main entrance area where they just built a new road.
So what's the anticipated timeline on when it's going to be completed?
For 2021, the whole goal is to have that done probably the end of the spring of 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, members?
I have a comment
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I'd like to make. Thanks for the update on facilities. And earlier today, one of the board members asked me, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm on Southern University's campus." But really and truly, this is one of the additional views that have been completed since we have not been able to travel back and forth to the campus as much. And I noticed that we have several beautiful views on the campus, thanks to our president and his staff for the upgrades that we've gotten. And maybe Mr. Rutledge, in the future, since we've not been able to travel back and forth to the campus as much, maybe next meeting, we can see and share with some of our board members some of the new beautiful views that have been done on the campuses, not just Baton Rouge campus, but all of the campuses.
Very good suggestion, Mrs. Smith. Dr. Belton, will you make certain that the appropriate people take some photographs of that, and so we can show them at our next meeting?
Definitely will. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, observations regarding facilities? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guillory.
You're very welcome.
Okay. We will move now to our medical marijuana update. Dr. McMeans?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, good morning, board members, President Belton. Southern
One of our board
University.
members texted me and wanted to know that you have any samples. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but
no, we're not handing out samples. So we have the microscope on us, so we have
Attorney McGee wanted some analysis on that. Sounds like Pat McGee text you.
That's who it was.
But as President Belton has stated several times, and Chairman Rutledge, Southern University continues to make history, being the first HBCU to release CBD and THC line. And as I took my job back last fall, the question was whether Southern University medical marijuana program will ever yield a product. And I'm happy to say, with the release of IO, that was released several weeks ago, that is seed to shelf. That's the first product that we planted, germinated, and processed it and put it on the shelf. So yes, Southern University is capable of a gigantic project as such. And I think we all are to be applauded. That is the board, President Belton, and all those included in the process that led to this. So I'm really excited about that, but I'm not going to steal Dr. Jana Snowden's thunder, but she's going to give a brief update on the program, and I know that she may be the only thing between now and the ending of the meeting. So Dr. Snowden, no pressure.
Do you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good morning. It's great to actually be here again, and I thank you guys for the opportunity to present on medical marijuana. As Dr. McMeans has mentioned, we have made great strides and accomplished much with this project in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. We have launched, beginning in January, we did launch the the Alapia brand, which was our CBD line, and we're looking to actually put that on a national platform, being that we've released the IO line, which is the medical marijuana state line, the THC line. we are looking to release our HOPE, which is the autism line. We're looking to do that very soon. And that's one of the ones that really have pushed the initiatives of this medical marijuana program. So we're really grateful for Alera in working very hard to get this line to the market. And we also have a insomnia line that's coming online as well. And excuse me for moving so much, but we have an insomnia line for those of you who cannot sleep. Yes, sir.
Dr. Snowden, I think Mr. McGee has a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Doc, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, ma'am. Did I hear you say you had an autism line?
That is correct.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, fellow members of the board, but that really piqued my curiosity. What in the world does that mean, Dr. Snowden? I mean,
so those children who actually, and not just children, but adults as well, who have been diagnosed with autism, we have a line that would actually help them to better deal with that, to cope with that. You know, some have learning disabilities, some, well, according to the charts or what have you, they've been on this spectrum. So we have a line that will come out that will help them to better deal with the autism, help calm them down, things of that nature. Thank you, sir. And I also mentioned the insomnia line for those who cannot get sleep at night. So we have great products coming. We have a gelatin-based chewable that's coming. It's most would look at it as a gummy, but you know, of course, we can't say a gummy for according to state legislature. So we have a gelatin-based chewable, and also we're working on a metered dose inhaler. So it's similar to a vape pen. It will not be a vape pen, but it will be controlled dosages once approved by pharmacy board. As you all know, effective August 1st, any physician could recommend medical marijuana to any patient in the state of Louisiana for any condition. So I do ask that if you do go and get a recommendation, once you go to the pharmacies, please request the Southern University line because, you know, there are two, you know, we have two suppliers in the state, but we want you to go and request our line. And that is very important to the university that our alum do that.
Dr. Snowden, can I ask you to, not that I'm interested now, but can I ask you to send an email to the entire board with the information about that line?
Yes, sir.
Just in case somebody needs to go and seek out a prescription.
Will do. And we do have information packets on that, so I will supply that to you all. And I would like to end the report by saying that Ms. Marla Dickerson of the Law Center and I have been working very hard in getting our educational curriculum online. So we have a curriculum, a template in place that we would like to utilize, but we have to get that vetted and approved by our chancellors before introducing to this online platform. Originally, we scheduled for this to be a hybrid course, but being we're in this pandemic, we have to move to an online platform at this time. So we are working to get that for anyone that's wondering if we have educational components coming aboard. Right now, we are working with pharmacies and physicians, pharmacists and physicians who have and moving forward. So we're very pleased with where the program is going. And in closing, I would say that we have 3 positions online on Indeed.com. And I would like, you know, anyone interested in those positions to go out, look and see what we have to offer. And if you can make a contribution to this program, please do so. Go apply.
excuse me, Dr. Snowden.
All right.
Yes.
Any
Question.
questions?
Yes, this is Bakari Garvey.
Question.
Yes,
Dr. Snowden.
you
Okay,
asked one of my.
I can't hear.
Okay, hold up a second. We'll go to Dr. Davis first, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Garvey, next. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, all right, Dr.
Okay.
Davis.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Snowden,
Yes,
what
sir.
about, are there pharmacies in the Baton Rouge areas? What's the footprint of the pharmacists in the Baton Rouge area that may be carrying our products?
So there's one pharmacy in Baton Rouge, and that's Capital Wellness, and it's off of Essen Lane. It's across from, what is that? Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. So it's off of Essen Lane, and I'll send that information to you with all the pharmacy lists. We did have it published at one time before. I know Miss Janine Tate put it on the website. So we'll do that again and make sure that you get that information. But it's Capital Wellness in Baton Rouge.
Thank you much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Garvey.
Thank you, Chairman. Dr. Snowden, you mentioned, I was going to ask you, you mentioned the educational component. I can imagine as you guys move in certain phases, you know, Southern University being an agricultural university in itself, how does the education component looks? Because you can have multiple platforms in regards to engineering, you know, the law center, as well as the agriculture system and the business system, all integrating and improving into this. Well, you know, Southern University could be one of the first medical marijuana or marijuana engineering programs in the country, which will endeavor, you know, increase enrollment as well. So,
yes, sir. So
how is that phase of education that you mentioned briefly about?
So currently, we have we have 4 components in that, and they include the horticulture, the law, the business, and the nursing or the healthcare components. That's what we have right now. We currently, I have a class, and Ms. Dickerson has a class in the Law Center where she teaches law, and I actually teach the Introduction to Cannabis course through my Medicinal Plant Special Problems course. So we're looking to phase those in. We've been having conversation with other entities who may want to be involved with those programs, and we're just looking to expand that. But engineering is one of those things that we have been looking into as well, because we know that we can develop new technologies utilizing all the programs that we do have within the system. So they will be phased in, but at this time, you know, those are the only 2 courses that we do have. We're looking in the ag science area of introducing a concentration within our ag science curriculum to the, you know, to our degree program. So we are making strides to do that at this time, but as mentioned, you know, COVID-19 has slowed a lot down as far as students coming up here and things like that, because when it relates to the horticulture components, we do want to provide some hands-on research and some hands-on training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions for Dr. Snowden? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Dr. Snowden.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from you, Dr. McMeans, on this? Okay, thank you. We go now to other business. Is there any other business?
Comment, please.
Yes, Dr. Davis.
Yes, I just want to commend the president and his staff and all the assistants for the graduation, virtual graduation for the Baton Rouge campus for the spring and summer. I just want to say it was very well done, very professionally done, and very informative. So I want to congratulate you. So pat yourselves on the back for that one.
Thank you. Any other observations? Any other business?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is Raymond Fondell. Also, I want to kind of agree with Dr. Davis that virtual graduation was really nice. It was something that we, you know, that we had to adjust to on the fly, and it came out real successful. The other thing I say too is we are less than 90 days away from an election that is coming up here in our area. I know this is our 3rd year on our SU Votes Initiative, and I'm hoping that we can get somewhat of the same participation that we had last year. I want to commend the president and his staff, and also to Ms. Myrick, Dr. Myrick, and her efforts and maintaining the SU Votes Initiative that we had. And we hope that we can get the same enthusiasm that we've had last year in the fall this year, which is upcoming election. And I encourage all of us, if we have an opportunity, to be involved in the process in our area and do something to help others in our communities. So with that being said, that'll be my final word. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other observations? Mr. President, will you also let the record reflect that Mr. Bartholomew has joined us?
I will.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can make just one comment.
Certainly.
Thank you. And just allow me again to thank the board for your tremendous service and support. I've had the occasion just this week to have some discussion with many, if not all of you, and your inputs are truly invaluable to us. It goes without saying that Southern University benefit from a lot of talent. I thank you for acknowledging Dr. Robin Merritt for her service in facilitating the virtual commencement, and as you made reference, Mr. Fondale, she will also be bringing the charge and leading our SU Votes campaign. You should also know that, we continue to facilitate task force meetings on a weekly basis, and we benefit from the likes of Katara Williams, who is bringing leadership at the system level, Tracy Woods for the Baton Rouge campus. Many people across the university system who are invested in this labor every day, trying to ensure that students who return to our university do so in a safe environment that's conducive to learning. And that, I can tell you, that's a heavy lift that we are challenged with every day. And so I certainly want to acknowledge all of them. One individual who has really brought incredible leadership to advancing and assisting the General Counsel's office, Mr. Tavares Walker, or Attorney Walker, will be departing from us this week. He has brought a heightened level of performance as relates to looking across the system in terms of ADA and Title IX compliance, and he will be missed. With your support, we were able to identify someone who will come to the campus and seamlessly fill those big shoes. But so I want to do one other thing and acknowledge the chairman of the board. You may be aware that he was acknowledged in the business report in the August edition, and really shone and illuminated in many ways what may be seen as outputs from Southern University. He truly made Southern University proud, and I wanted to as well acknowledge him
Thank you
for his leadership on this board and how he was presented to the state of Louisiana through that publication. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you, Dr. Belton. Thank you, members. Any other matters under other business? Any other observations? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Hilliard. Have a great day.
All right.
Okay, we stand adjourned.
All right.